While I was working abroad, my parents gave me an ultimatum. Pay off my brother's $160,000 debt, or they'd get rid of my son. I thought they meant it figuratively, until they literally left him outside a police station with a note that read, "Unwanted father lives abroad." Then they erased every trace of me from the house. I didn't even call. I just smiled and started building a brutal plan. Yesterday, it was set in motion. Now they're crying. What did you do? You're destroying the family. When I accepted a 2-year contract overseas, I never imagined I'd come home to a nightmare. I'm 34, single dad to a 5-year-old boy, Liam. His mom dipped before he was even born, so I raised him with my parents' help. Or at least, I thought they were helping. Back in 2023, I landed a lucrative job in Singapore. It was the break I needed, not just to get ahead financially, but to give Liam the life I never had. I asked my parents, both in their mid-60s, if they'd watch him while I was away. They agreed, even insisted, "We'll raise him like our own." My mom said, "Focus on your future." So I did. Every month I sent them money, mortgage payments, car payments, and $2,000 for Liam's care. I FaceTimed with him every weekend, sent gifts, booked surprise birthday trips. I thought I was doing everything right. Then, 6 months ago, the calls changed. Less Liam on the screen, more coldness. "We're busy, he's out with friends." My gut twisted, but I was drowning in deadlines and 12-hour workdays. I brushed it off, until the email came. One line from my mother. "You either send $160,000 to cover your brother's debt, or we will have no choice but to get rid of the boy." My brother, Eric, 32, has always been the golden child, charming, reckless, addicted to gambling and bad decisions. He'd racked up debts before, but this was different. I called immediately. "What the hell is this?" I asked. My dad answered calmly. "It's time you stopped pretending. Liam's not our responsibility. We did you a favor. Now it's your turn. Help your brother, or figure out what to do with your kid, because we won't." I thought it was a bluff. I didn't reply. I needed time. I needed a plan, but I was too late. 3 days later, I got a call from Child Protective Services. Here's how they found me. Officers discovered Liam standing outside a police station, alone in the rain, with a soaked piece of paper in his coat pocket. It read, "Unwanted father lives abroad. Name unknown." He kept repeating my name, first name, last name. He even spelled it out. I'd taught him early. Know your name, your dad's full name, and how to say Singapore if you're ever in trouble. CPS ran a check. Despite my parents' best efforts to scrub me from their lives, they missed one thing: school records and medical forms. I was listed as the primary guardian on file. My overseas number was verified through the embassy and his passport application. That's how my phone lit up at 4 a.m. I answered groggy. "Mr. Davis, this is Child Protective Services. We have your son. He's safe, but we need to talk." I flew home that night. When I arrived at my parents' house the next day, Liam was gone. CPS had placed him in emergency foster care until I arrived. But the house looked like I'd never existed. No photos of me, no drawings from Liam. My old room had been converted into a walk-in closet. When I rang the doorbell, my mom answered as if she didn't even know me. "We told you what we needed," she said coldly. "You chose your answer." I didn't say a word, not when she called me selfish, not when my dad said, "You should have stayed gone," not when Eric stepped out behind them, grinning like he'd won. I just smiled, because I already knew what I was going to do. Yesterday it began. Liam didn't smile when I picked him up. Not the way he used to, not even a flicker. He clutched a small plastic dinosaur and stared past me, hollowed, as if he were still waiting for someone else to show up. I knelt down, held his hand, and tried not to cry. The CPS caseworker hovered nearby, shaken. Liam hadn't spoken much since they found him. I took him straight to a hotel. I wasn't ready to bring him into the house I grew up in, not after what they'd done. That first night, he curled up in the corner of the bed instead of next to me. He kept his coat on the whole time. The next morning, I called my lawyer in Singapore and told him everything. By noon, I had a US-based attorney on retainer and a list of every legal angle we could pursue. Liam was mine, that was never in question. But I wanted ironclad protection, documentation, and paper trails. I wasn't just rebuilding, I was preparing. Over the next week, I kept things quiet. No one heard from me. I ignored my parents' emails. I didn't answer when Eric called from a different number, asking if I could just be reasonable. Instead, I filed for emergency relocation and permanent custody. I notified Liam's school that he wouldn't be returning, not under their watch. Then I filed a civil suit for financial exploitation. Every dollar I'd sent, itemized, traced, and weaponized. Luxury handbags, casino withdrawals, the down payment on Eric's car, all receipts and transfers. Meanwhile, Liam started coming back to life. Slowly, he laughed for the first time after we spent an afternoon at a science museum. He asked for pancakes at 3 a.m., and I made them without hesitation. He began sleeping through the night again, with his head on my chest. He didn't ask about them. I didn't bring it up. But the silence was loud. Every time he flinched at a car door or asked if I was going away again, my resolve deepened. This wasn't just about what they did. It was about who they chose and who they discarded. They didn't just abandon Liam. They threw him away like garbage. I wasn't going to yell or threaten. I was going to burn down everything they'd built around their lies. And I did it silently, because nothing is louder than being erased by the son you underestimated. The first sign of trouble came as a whisper. My father's pension payments were rerouted, legally clean. Years ago, he'd made me co-sign and administer the account, a setup he'd forgotten in his arrogance. I froze the funds, citing misuse. By the time he noticed, the review board had opened a fraud investigation. Eric's car disappeared next, repossessed. I hadn't touched it directly. I'd just sent the credit agency a dossier. Title history, offshore payments traced back to the account they'd funneled my money into. A red flag hit the system. Neighbors watched the tow truck. By then, their utilities sputtered. I'd canceled the autopay accounts I'd set up years ago. Power, water, internet, locked behind my authorization. They'd need to reapply, but the delinquencies were recorded. None of it was illegal. Nothing was loud. I simply took back what was mine. Then came the letters. Formal notice of civil litigation for financial abuse of a minor, a full audit request from the IRS for gift reporting discrepancies, and a subpoena for Eric tied to a fraud claim. The fake loan he'd submitted in my name 3 years ago. I had copies, too. I didn't hide my name. I wanted them to see who was pulling the thread. Word spread fast. Old friends stopped visiting. Invitations to barbecues, church gatherings, and charity events all vanished. They were parasites. Quietly, intentionally, I broke my silence only with the bank. I filed to reclaim my name on the deed to their house. Not because I wanted it, but because I owned it. My lawyer sent notice. They had 90 days to vacate. That was when the calls turned from smug to panicked. I didn't answer, not even when the voicemails turned to sobbing. My mom begged. My father cursed. Eric threatened. Then came the final text. You're destroying the family. I stared at the screen for a long time, then turned it off. There was no family left to destroy. They made sure of that the moment they abandoned my son outside a police station like he was trash. Everything after that was just consequences. 3 weeks passed quietly. I kept Liam close, cafe breakfasts, harbor walks, whispered bedtime stories. He laughed more now freely. We stayed in a modest hotel, paid through layered transfers. No name on file, no visitors. Only my legal team knew where we were. I thought I'd covered everything, until kindness slipped through. I enrolled Liam in a small transitional school, routine paperwork. Then a substitute confirmed his enrollment to a worried grandmother over the phone. They knew. A few days later, a woman showed up crying at the hotel. No name, just family. I didn't answer. Security sent her away. Later, I watched the footage, her sweater, the folder, the tears. It didn't feel like revenge, just closure. The next morning, I finalized the house transfer. Eric was gone. My parents were in a motel. I donated the house to a youth shelter. That night, Liam called me Dad. Steady. Sure. I didn't burn the bridge, I erased it. 6 months later, we lived 2 states east in a quiet town, a small house held in trust. No names on mail, no traces left behind. Liam has a dog now, wiry, loyal, a little wild. They run together like they've never known fear. He doesn't talk about what happened, just small things, cold chairs at the station, the woman with tired eyes. Never his grandparents. He doesn't need to. I work in cybersecurity now, fully remote, invisible by design. Every few weeks, I check court records. My parents' visitation request was denied. No rights for those who abandon children. Eric vanished. Fitting. The old house is a shelter now. There's a mural on the wall. Kids sleep in beds, not cars. I drove past it once, just once. Now Liam sleeps with his door cracked. Not afraid, just free. His teacher called last week. He wrote a story about a super dad who fights dragons and builds unbreakable castles. She cried. I told her, I understand. We're not perfect, but we're safe, and no one knows where we are. It was dusk. Liam had fallen asleep on the couch, a crayon still in his hand, his latest drawing on his chest. A little house, a stick-figure dad, a dog, and a boy standing in the sun. I stepped outside for a moment. The breeze was soft. The porch light buzzed faintly behind me. Then my phone lit up from a blocked number. I didn't hesitate. I let it ring out, then powered it off. As I stepped back inside, I looked at the door, solid oak, deadbolt locked, reinforced frame. And then at Liam. I realized that call, that number, had passed. None of it could touch us anymore. We weren't hiding, we were protected. They weren't shut out by accident. They were locked out by design. I picked up Liam, carried him to bed, and turned out the lights. That was the last minute they ever reached for us. And the first minute we were truly free.